you very much.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, a very good afternoon to each of you. It's so nice to see each of you, and I'm actually honored to be here on behalf of our Executive Director, Anna Claudia Roshbach, who at this very moment, even as we're speaking, is delivering her opening remarks at a special session convened by the government of Azerbaijan, taking place at this very moment. But what I want to assure you is this: she's going to be here as soon as she can be, and she's going to deliver the closing remarks as well. It's good to see everyone. I see some familiar faces. I'm also seeing a lot of new faces as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it goes without saying, as His Excellency the Ambassador from Somalia just stated, that across every region in the world, housing has moved from being in the margins of policy debate to the center of political, economic, and social concern. Now that is both based on the reality of the complexity of housing, the challenges associated with housing, but how the discourse around housing has taken center stage, both politically, socially, and also economically as well. Think about it, in many countries, housing affordability is now shaping elections, not just in developing countries, but also in developed and OECD countries as well. In cities, it is determining whether workers, young people, and vulnerable are being impacted, but the reality is when you take issues related to housing, think about informality, inequality, climate vulnerability, and infrastructure gaps, it brings us back, it circles back to this whole concept of housing. Think about the global economy. Housing systems are becoming deeply connected to questions of productivity, migration, public finance, and resilience. Now, what does that really mean? Housing is no longer simply just a vertical or a social sector issue. It's becoming a strategic systems issue. And systems issues require coalition-based responses. Why? Because think about it this way, no single institution or no single sector can try and solve the complexity of the global housing crisis on its own. Think about it at different levels. Can a national government do it without partnership with local governments? Can we do this without the partnership of the private sector? Can we do this without the participation and inclusion of civil society actors, for example? WUF13. All this to say, ladies and gentlemen, is that the reality that we're confronted with is any attempt to try and do this on our own would not yield the results that we yearn for. Because we think of issues that intersect with housing, climate, for example. Not any entity that's exclusively focused on housing can try and do climate-related issues on its own. You need actors in the space of climate to be a critical part of this. So for too long, housing has been treated as an outcome of development. But can I say this, representing UN Habitat? Increasingly, we are beginning to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that housing is actually an enabler for development, just not as outcome or an output of development. Again, just to underscore my earlier point, it influences whether climate responses succeed, whether urban economies remain competitive, whether demographic transitions can be managed, and whether social cohesion still holds. And this is why housing must absolutely sit at the center of global coalitions. It's not secondary or an afterthought. It's not beside climate discussions, it's a critical part of climate discussions. It's just not after infrastructure planning, it's a critical part of the plan. It's not just a secondary economic policy, it's a critical part of it as well. At the center, ladies and gentlemen, because the decisions we make on housing shape land use, transport systems, energy demand, emissions, etc. It is important to see housing at the center and not on the margins. Excellencies, we are also seeing an important shift internationally as well. Housing is becoming a renewed area of multilateral cooperation. At this World Urban Forum, we are seeing governments exchange lessons on affordability, informality, homelessness, housing finance, accessibility, reconstruction, and resilient urban development. We also see housing increasingly reflected in nationally determined contributions and climate plans. And if I may just double down on this next point, and through the open-ended intergovernmental expert working group on adequate housing, member states are advancing the first truly global intergovernmental dialogue dedicated specifically to housing questions. I think that's such a big piece and an important aspect of where we need to be. These are important signals, ladies and gentlemen, but they must not converge stronger collective action. It is to create alignment around finance and policy, alignment between national ambition and local implementation, and alignment between climate investments and housing outcomes. Excellencies, if the 21st century is increasingly being shaped in cities, then housing will shape the future of cities, a reality. And if housing shapes the future of cities, then housing must become central, like I said earlier, to how the international community thinks about sustainable development today. So today's discussion is therefore not simply about housing policy. It's important for us to be reminded about this. It's about how we build stronger coalitions for a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable urban future. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, can I take this opportunity to thank you and really look forward to engaging in the discussion about to happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director. Thank you very much for framing the path ahead. And as Director just said, indeed, housing can never ever be treated as an afterthought anymore. Well, with that being said, let's proceed to our first panel. So please put your hands together to welcome our esteemed panelists, starting with